Welcome back to the Art of Football 365. This is something different, something new we're doing. We're going to give it a shot. Add a playlist to our YouTube channel, something like audience talk or something like that. For anyone who wants to come on and talk their favorite team, talk sports in general, we want to have you on, and we want to have more interaction with people who listen to our podcast. So today we're having on Tyler Matthews, a huge Wisconsin football fan. Not a great team to be a fan of, but we're going to dive into Wisconsin football today and kind of get a fan's perspective of what's going on with the Wisconsin Badgers football team this year, who has started the season with one win, 1-3 through the first 3 weeks. So go ahead, you can introduce yourself, Tyler, and kind of tell our audience a little bit about why you're a Wisconsin Badgers fan, and yeah, just kind of introduce yourself.
Tyler Matthews. I'm a Freeport, Illinois native. Always wanted to be up in Wisconsin, and recently I got the opportunity. I moved up to Milwaukee about half a year ago. Loving it up here. Love the vibes with the Wisconsin fans. It's a whole different experience up here. Been to one game so far this year. Hope to get to some more. So as far as it goes this season, I don't know if I'll be going to any more though.
Yeah, I mean, the direction the team's heading isn't fantastic, I would say. You thought Graham Mertz was the answer. Well, through the first 3 games, he's had 566 passing yards, which is about 188 yards per game, which is not great for what Wisconsin fans thought the savior of their team was going to produce. He's kind of struggled mightily throughout the first 3 weeks. I mean, could still be growing pains. He's a sophomore this year? Is that right?
Yeah, just a sophomore. Had a short season last year with the COVID and still growing, man.
Well, let's throw it back to last year. I mean, I know COVID was a little awkward with the season, and nobody really knew when college teams were playing or if they were playing. But Wisconsin got their opportunity to play, and Graham Mertz, Illinois. Describe what was going through your head through that game, because I know as a Wisconsin fan, a diehard fan, you were feeling extra good about that game, knowing, okay, maybe we got our quarterback. Maybe we got this stud that's going to lead us to the playoffs. I mean, even anywhere within having the opportunity to win. You guys thought that this guy was going to help you win ball games. So what was going through your head during and after that game?
That was the best Wisconsin team that I had ever seen on the field that day. I went out to the game after there, and when we left, I said Wisconsin could compete with any team in the NCAA. You know, Graham Mertz was the answer. Obviously, he was the highest recruited player coming into Wisconsin history. And, you know, you draw 5 touchdowns on Illinois' head. You're obviously feeling really good as a Wisconsin fan. But, you know, then the next week, obviously, he was out with COVID, and these growing pains have just hurt him ever since then. It's tough to watch when you know he can be a player like he was week 1 against Illinois last year. And he just has to develop to become that player again.
I mean, I hope he can rebound. I hope he can get it turned around. I mean, like we said, the guy's young. Honestly, I told you the other day, I'm a fan of his intangibles. I like what Graham Mertz has with his physique and his football body. Like, he has the body to be a successful quarterback in today's game. Now, has it been shown on a football field yet at the college level? Maybe for one game, maybe a couple games. This year's definitely kind of opened some people's eyes who thought that this guy was going to be the truth. However, I personally, Tyler knows I give him crap about Wisconsin football all the time. Every time we see each other, it's Wisconsin's going to lose, all that fun stuff, you know, just talking with your friends about sports. But looking at their schedule the rest of the season, I mean, week 1, looking back at it, you lost to Penn State 16-10 in kind of a game that you guys probably thought going into, like, it should have been or could have been yours pretty easily.
Yeah, so I actually was at that game, and I saw it live. You know, I can't take anything away from Penn State. They're a tough team. You know, they play down to the dirt. They're awesome. Defense was sound the game. But Wisconsin blew that game on their own. You know, you throw a pass to the 1-yard line to Danny Davis to score, it's tough to not make the play. They were in the red zone, I think, 3 or 4 separate times and came away with a field goal. They had a field goal blocked after they got down to the 2 yard line. It's tough to be a good team when you can't convert in the red zone, and they haven't done that all year this year. They're dead last in the Big Ten for red zone conversions. You can't compete with these Big Ten teams playing like that, especially teams like Penn State and Michigan coming up this week. You got to be on your game.
Oh, 100%. And you mentioned that you're dead last in red zone percentage and taking advantage of those opportunities in the red zone. A stat that I actually found while I was doing some research on Wisconsin football. I mean, I'm not a fan, but I had to do some research on this team and kind of dive into what the issue is. And one of the biggest issues that I've noticed over the course of the last 2 years with this football team, through statistics and numbers, is the Badgers are 13 of 47 on third downs.
Yeah,
That's 27.7% through 3 games this season. And against Notre Dame, they were 1 of 14.
yep.
And you wonder why you lose 41-13, because if you can't convert on third down, you're not going to move the ball. You're punting. It's 3 and out every time. And,
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to the coaching aspect. I think that the coaches are playing a little bit too conservative. They're not letting Graham Mertz ball like he wants to, in my opinion. The line isn't giving him time to get that ball released on third downs when they do throw the pass. So, it all comes back to the coaching and him not being able to play like he is supposed to.
All right, so let's do a hypothetical here. We mentioned coaching, which we'll dive into a little bit more here. But say you let go of your head coach, Paul Chryst, after this year or during the year. Who, in your eyes, could be his replacement if you had any recollection of or ideas of who could take his place? Who would you want to fill in with that spot? I mean, I know it's tough. College coaches are not like huge names, other than like Saban and them guys. Like the NFL, a lot of coaches. But if you could like maybe just pick one guy that you know of that you like or that's already on the Badger staff, who would you roll with to fill in his spot?
He's already on the Badger staff. I put Jim Leonard as head coach. He declined a job at Green Bay as a defensive coordinator to stay with Wisconsin because his roots are there. He loves that team. He wants them to succeed. And look how he's made that defense successful. They've been a top tier defense year in and year out with him as the coach for them. I think he's young. He's electric. He could bring some firepower into that offense and make them, a top tier program like they should be, in my opinion.
I like it. But you mentioned he's a defensive guy, so where's he going to bring the firepower to this offensive side of things?
Also, he could hire a younger offensive coordinator. I think we got Paul Chryst out there calling the plays, and in my opinion, he's playing ball like it's the 70s or 80s. You can't do that anymore. In my opinion, the NCAA, these teams are too fast, too strong now. It's not just north-south running anymore, and that's his style of play. So he's not getting these receivers involved enough, in my own opinion. So
well, you really don't have the offensive line to even do what he wants to do right now either. You can't run the rock. Your receivers, I mean, you got talent on the outside. You got some receivers that can be tough, but with the weak offensive line and Mertz struggling, I mean, they have no opportunities to even succeed. So you can't put the blame on these receivers. You can't put the blame on tight ends, any of these guys, other than if they're struggling blocking, I guess. But through 7 years as Paul Chryst being the head coach with Wisconsin, 57-21 with a .731 winning percentage, and he's 5-1 in bowl games. So I mean, that's not terrible, honestly. I mean, obviously it's a winning record, and he's only lost 1 bowl game. So is this new for you, kind of like not wanting Chryst to be the head coach anymore, or has this been something that's on your mind? And if so, is it just this season that he's kind of driving you crazy?
It was kind of not. It was about 2 years ago when you start to realize that the coaching and the player, they're not able to win the big games. It comes down in the NCAA to you have to beat the top programs to be in the playoff. And year in and year out, Wisconsin has kind of blown opportunities when they come to the big show. Obviously, when they were 14-0, lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, didn't make the playoffs. that could have been their big year to finally shine. You know, make the playoff. You got a name for yourself, and you're kind of at that shrine now for years to follow. It's just the big games not being able to win those. That's for me with Paul Chris. So.
Well, I know personally. I mean, I know a lot of Wisconsin fans, and I know for a fact that you guys had this Notre Dame games circled on your calendar, marked up.
Yeah.
You guys were ready for this game, and I know we got some Notre Dame friends as well too. So
Yeah.
it's nice to it was nice to have that game and come together and have people together to watch it. But the outcome, it definitely showed Wisconsin's true colors, and although Notre Dame did not look good, so I'm not giving Notre Dame any credit in this game. It very easily could have went either way until Wisconsin just collapsed and Notre Dame put up a bunch of garbage points in my perspective.
Yeah.
Like it was a low scoring game, and then I look back and all of a sudden Notre Dame's got 41.
Yeah, you can't take from the fact that they had 13-10 with 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was a lot of garbage time, trying to force the ball, get some points to make the score not look as bad, in my opinion. But you know, it was a great game up until it fell apart in the fourth quarter. So.
Oh, it definitely fell apart. But so tomorrow, you got Michigan at your house. What's the predictions for that game? What are you most looking forward to seeing? I know, even though this season is a disappointment through 3 games, 1-3. Oh, yeah, 1-3. 1-2.
Yeah, 1-2.
1-2. Okay, 3 games. I said 1-3. So you got Michigan at your house. Like I said, I know it's been a disappointment, but are you looking forward to anything in this game? Do you think that this middle of the season you guys can start to turn things around?
Yeah. So in my opinion, tomorrow, Ches Malusi is kind of playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think the main reason he kind of came to Wisconsin was to make a point that he deserved to be a starting back in the NCAA. Obviously, he was behind some greats at Clemson. I think that he's doing a great job in Wisconsin. I mean, even with the line not being great, look at the numbers he's putting up 100 plus a couple times. He's a baller, but it's hard when you're playing a defense that's been pretty well this year in Michigan, but they haven't faced a real true test yet. And also, you think about Jim Harbaugh in the big games when it comes down to it, he doesn't play very well in the big games. So my prediction is it's, 20s, 30 score. It's going to be real tight the whole time. I'm hoping Wisconsin can pull out with a win. It's going to be a 1 or 2 touchdown game, in my opinion.
Book it down, put it in your DraftKings, put it in your FanDuel. It's going to be a 1 touchdown game.
And somehow they got Wisconsin on the money line 3.5. I don't know how that happened, but they still got Wisconsin.
You mentioned your running. Was it running back Malusi? Is the running back?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just making sure that was the right name, but I'm looking at it right now. 319 yards on 69 attempts, averaging over 4.5 per carry, with his longest touch being 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the season. So honestly, my opinion with that is you're looking at a guy who's running the rock pretty well, averaging 4.5 a carry with an offensive line that's not good.
Right.
That's not good. So it will be interesting to see if he can have a big game tomorrow. That'll be a player to look out for, I'd say, for sure. But I wanted to get your opinion on your linebacker. When I was looking at some stuff, he's your leading tackler right now, Jack Sanborn.
Yep, Jack Sanborn.
So what's your take on that guy?
Absolute dog, man. If I could compare him to anybody in the league, it's got to be Luke Kuechly. You see the man flying everywhere. He's in on every play, always making the play. He comes up when it's time to show up. So I'm excited. I think he's league bound, in my opinion. He's going to get picked up, if not in the draft, in free agency. He's a great player, and anybody would be lucky to have him. It's been awesome to see him play the last few years. He's an absolute beast out there. Him, and I want to include Nick Herbig on that, because that man is an absolute dog as well, a sophomore, true starter as a freshman. I believe he's got 3.5 sacks so far this year. He's an absolute beast too. I can't wait to see him play some more ball for Wisconsin.
Well, you definitely got some defensive talent. You got some players that you're comparing to Luke Kuechly, so that's a positive, I guess. That's a positive if you're looking at a team that's 1-2 right now, and you got a linebacker who's like Luke Kuechly. That's nice, but uh, I want to go back to this. I mentioned this earlier with the third down issue. You're 27% success rate on third downs through the first 3 games, but even last season, with an awkward year, obviously, you guys were 7th in the Big Ten last season with a third down conversion rate of 38%. So it's
Yep.
not like this is a new problem. I mean,
Yep.
obviously you're about 10% less than what you were last year, taking into account you're only 3 games into the year. But this, I mean, 2 years in a row, kind of, this has been a consistent problem. So I want to ask you from a fan perspective, because I haven't watched Wisconsin football really. I've just done a little research on them. So what have you seen on third down? Like, what typical play calls have you seen Chris make? Are they short pass routes? Are they runs up the middle? What have you seen mostly from him, and why do you think it's been unsuccessful?
On the third down conversion, a lot I see the north-south running, right up the middle, jam it. But you can't do that with the line that you got right now because obviously you're not getting anywhere first and second down. What's going to change on third down? In my opinion, they need to open up the playbook to Graham Mertz, let him throw a little bit, throw to Jake Ferguson, one of the best tight ends in the NCAA, throw it to Kendrick Pryor, Danny Davis. You got hands all over the field that can catch the ball, and they create separation off the line. So give them a chance to make a play, especially on third, when obviously the run game isn't working on these third down conversions.
Yeah. Like you said, we're gonna go to pass, but the run's not working. So with this bad O line, do you think Chris is kind of looking at it and saying, okay, well, our best opportunity, our best chance to be successful on third down right now is to run the ball? Because what if Mertz doesn't have enough time in the pocket? And he really hasn't proved much in the pocket yet. I mean, through the first 3 games, he has 6 interceptions with 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I believe 4 fumbles too. I might be wrong on that, but
It's tough. So I mean, you're looking at it from a guy who doesn't watch Wisconsin football compared to you, who is diehard. From my perspective, looking at it, to me, I just don't think Chris is getting any help.
he's really not.
And I mean, when you have a quarterback who has the intangibles but can't display it on the football field, you have an O line that can't run block, can't give your quarterback who's already not playing well, you can't give him any time to make any plays. That means you're taking away the 2 aspects of offensive football. You have no run and you have no pass, which is kind of right there is the issue is offensive line. Like that's from an outsider looking in. I think when you look at it, you're like, okay, the biggest issue obviously is the offensive line.
Yeah.
You can't run the ball if you can't pass the ball. Not all that's on your quarterback. Obviously, he's got to step up and make reads faster. He's got to be quicker in the pocket. But 6 interceptions, I mean, that kind of, to me, I haven't seen what these interceptions look like. I don't know if they're bad throws. I don't know if they're not having enough time in the pocket and just making a decision, or maybe it's his reads. Because when I was looking up Graham Mertz, there was three aspects of his game that he said he's been working on and that he's made a priority. And those 3 things are footwork, accuracy, and reads. So I'm glad he has reads on there because obviously he needs to work a little bit on that. But out of those 3 things, what would you say that Mertz has struggled with the most? His footwork, accuracy, or his reads?
If I could do a combination, I would. But to me, it's mostly the accuracy. He's kind of slipping on these balls right in where it could be a good throw, but it's a little shorter, it's a little far. He's got a cannon. The man can throw, but he's missing a lot of the throws.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to watch because you know what he can do and the way that he can drop it in, and it's frustrating to see that. But he's also just not getting the time that he needs back there. He's probably got about 2 full seconds to get that ball, and the way he reads is one-sided on the field. So when you watch the tape, you see his head focus on the left if he's going to throw left, or the right. He doesn't really scan the field a lot,
which is tough because that kind of shows you right there he doesn't have enough time to scan the field. So I mean that helps, and that could be a main reason why these interceptions are happening. Because if you look at it, not having enough time, like you mentioned, that's a very good point. like you mentioned, the quarterback, he drops back. If he doesn't have enough time, he's going to look at his first read, and he's not going to have enough time to go over and look to the second
Yeah.
read, which means he may be thrown into double coverage right there, picked off, pick six, whatever it is. So that stems back to the offensive line.
And it's hard to watch as a fan when you know how much talent that you have if this quarterback can have time. I mean, even going back a couple of years when you had Jack Cohn in the pocket, that man could ball when he had time in the pocket because he had a better line then. So it all leads to the line in this instance with his ability to play, in my opinion.
Would you take back Cohn if you could have him this year?
The man was a baller, but I love seeing Graham Mertz. I hope he can develop. He's only a sophomore. Give the man time. I really think in the next couple of years he's going to prosper and become the player that he's supposed to be.
Okay. I mean, to me, watching Notre Dame a little bit, Cohen to me kind of seems a little bit injury prone.
Yeah.
Seems like he's been getting randomly hurt throughout the game, and then he gets replaced. Like, you don't even know where the guy went. He's just on the sideline, new quarterback's in, and then the next drive he's in, you find out he dislocated his finger or stubbed his toe. So I don't really know what's going on. But, all right, so we already talked a little bit about Michigan. So I'm gonna run through the schedule all the way through week 12, and you just tell me W or L, and
Okay.
we're gonna find out what your final prediction is for this season with the record. So right now, obviously 1-2, you got Michigan. So W or L?
I'll call it W this weekend.
Okay. Illinois week 5.
W.
Okay, so you're getting a little hot. Two straight wins. You're now up to 3-2. 3-2. So you're back over 500 now, which is decent. Then you got Army at your house.
That one's a tough game, but I'll still call a W on that one.
All right, 4-2, and then you travel to Purdue.
W on that one as well.
5-2, and then you're against Iowa. 5-3.
I'm gonna call that one an L. Iowa's a tough team this year. They're really tough team.
They are tough. 5-3, and then you're at the Rutgers.
W.
6-3. Yeah. And then so you're 6-3. Then week 10 I wrote down NU. Do you know who that is?
I'm sorry?
I wrote NU.
Oh, Northwestern.
Okay, Northwestern. I guess I don't know abbreviations. So you're at 6-3, W or L?
That's a trap game. I'm gonna call an L on that one.
6-4. 6-4. Week 11, you got Nebraska.
It's a tough game, but I'll call it W on that one.
7-4. Go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
I'll give Nebraska credit. They've been balling. They played Oklahoma tough, man. I loved watching that game. They were playing really well.
7-4 to wrap up the season. You travel to Minnesota.
W. They're gonna bring that axe back home.
All right. So you finish the season 8-4, which looks better on paper. It makes Wisconsin fans feel a little bit better about where this season went. But now it's almost like, all right, you finish 8-4. You're gonna get into a bowl game. What kind of bowl game is it gonna be? Is it even gonna be a bowl game worth watching? Who are you gonna play?
Right.
I mean, obviously the playoffs are not an opportunity this year. So that's the weird thing about college football, dude. Is like when I watch, like I enjoy watching college football, but I just can't get hyped enough to know that as soon as a team loses 2 or 3 games, you have no opportunity for them to win a national championship. And to me, bowl games, like they're cool and all, and you get a nice little trophy when you win, and it's got a weird name to the bowl game, like the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. I mean, that's awesome. Like, shout out to them college teams who have all won a bowl game. Like, bowl games are cool. But to me, I'd rather just watch playoffs, man. Like, I feel like that's just much more competitive. So you look at it, and it's like, as a Wisconsin fan, like you lose 2 out of your first 3, you can't even be. I mean, you could be excited, I guess.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm more of an NFL guy. Like, if my favorite team lost 2 out of 3 games, I'm like, am I really going to watch the rest of the season for the Chick-fil-A Bowl?
Yeah, you still got a chance in the NFL to make the playoffs easily with a losing record. I mean, that's the most upsetting part to me as well as a college football fan. I sit down all Saturday and watch college football, and I see these big teams get knocked off, and I'm like, it goes back to like Florida and Alabama a couple weeks ago. Florida played them tough as nails. I mean, nobody will probably play Alabama that tough this year. And look, they probably won't even have a shot. Their best shot is the SEC championship to maybe get a round two, and then you don't even know if they beat them if they make it in. It's tough to watch when it's like only 4 teams going to the playoff.
I mean, it's frustrating because I mean, the people who like the college football committee or the playoff committee, I mean, they've made some questionable decisions over the course of this playoff existence since college football brought it to life. They've made questionable decisions. I mean, like I said, I'm more of an NFL guy, so I don't really have an answer for what they could do to fix that. Obviously, expansion should be number one on their list. That's an obvious choice. Because then you start to see teams like the Badgers, if they lose 1 or 2 games, maybe have a shot to come make some noise. And it's college football. Yeah. Upsets happen every day.
Yeah, exactly. So my take on that is, Wisconsin waited a long time for the tough schedule that they got this year. And they've played 2 out of 3 games against top-ranked opponents. Mm-hmm. You can't take, obviously, the loss against Penn State was a 1-score game. I mean, yeah, they were still in the rankings, and then they got blown by Notre Dame. But when you look at paper, Wisconsin played Notre Dame tough still until the garbage time TDs. And it even goes back a few years ago to when Wisconsin went undefeated regular season. They lose by a touchdown to Ohio State, and in the Big Ten championship comes to show that when the committee makes the choice, Ohio State and Wisconsin are out of the top 4. Mm-hmm. So what's the incentive of winning your conference when you're not even going to be in the playoffs? You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree 100%. It's the college football playoff is a big name thing. It's Alabama, it's Ohio State, it's
the
Clemson.
But there's always somebody snubbed out, man. Every year there's some team that deserved to be in and didn't get in.
100%. Which to me is ridiculous. One, because you're basing it off these school names, these big names who get all the 5-star recruits that still go undefeated, so obviously they deserve to be in there. But it's almost like you look at college basketball and you see the March Madness tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if there's a possibility or a way that you could even make this happen. I feel like the only way you could make like a March Madness football tournament happen would be to almost like scale back from 12 weeks, 12 regular season games to maybe like 8.
Yeah.
8 or 9, and then give a couple extra weeks for the playoff to happen, because you'd see teams like Wisconsin go in and upset a team that is a national championship contender and that should be in the national championship. It's things like that we don't get to see. We see all these crazy upsets in the regular season that you're like, wow, like how did that happen? Jaw dropping. And then you go to the playoffs, it's like that team will win, and then this team will win it all.
Yeah. I'd love to see the upsets in the playoff, because then you don't get – I'm honestly a little sick of the same matchup every year. I mean, for years it was Clemson, Alabama, and then Ohio State would sneak in, and then Georgia was in there. But the big name you always hear is Alabama. I mean, give some other team a shot at them in the playoffs to maybe pull an upset. If it wasn't 6 teams, maybe go to 8 teams, or even possibly my opinion on it was maybe a 10-team system and give the 1 and 2 seed a bye or something. I mean, that'd be awesome in my opinion. But
no, it would be. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in agreement with what we're talking about right now. And I mean, I hope we see change. I know that it's more than likely not bound to happen for at least the next couple of years. So it's tough. But is there any final thoughts you want to talk about with Wisconsin Badger football before we wrap this one up?
Listen, I'm just going to say, after this game this weekend, these coaches are on the hot seat. They're going into this game. Let me look at my notes real quick. Oh, sorry. They've lost 7 straight games to ranked teams right now. if they lose this weekend, I think that they're going to look at coaching options possibly. I think Paul Chris is kind of coming towards the tail end of his career in Wisconsin. I really hope we pull away a W this weekend, but I'm a little nervous for the rest of this season. But
Do you think before you finish with your final thoughts, do you think that if the losses continue, Chris is susceptible to getting fired in season, or do you think they'll wait till the end of the season to do this?
Wisconsin's too nice. They would wait till the end of the season. There's no way that they'd let.
So you got to deal with the pain and agony of a coach sitting on your team that you don't want anymore. Kind of like how I did with Jason Garrett, but conversation for a different day. Go ahead and finish.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of Paul Chris. He's been great for this program, but in order to take this program to the top tier level to compete with these SEC teams, get into the Big Ten championship year in, year out, something has to change. So
I agree, man. I think something does have to change 100%. I'm interested to see how they perform tomorrow against a Michigan team led by Harbaugh. Like I said, doesn't like to win them big games, but we'll see. They'll probably come back on here at the end of the season. We'll talk a wrap up of the season. But right now, 3 weeks in, the Badgers aren't looking good. We kind of listed off some reasons why. If you didn't really pay attention to anything we were saying, it was the offensive line. Graham Mertz struggles. Paul Chris, the head coach, play calling issues on third down, not being successful on third down, and pretty much letting the game get away from you when it's relatively close. For example, Penn State, Notre Dame, and then the one game that you win 34-7. So I think that's about all we need to cover with Wisconsin Badger football through the first 3 weeks. Tyler, I appreciate you coming on here, man. I hope to do it again, and I hope we have more episodes like this coming your guys' way. So I appreciate you, Tyler.
Yeah, hey man, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So now, prepare for our next week's episode coming your guys' way. Not sure exactly when that'll be, but tune in, keep liking, viewing, subscribing, everything that we drop for you guys. We appreciate it, and we're just going to keep working on spitting more content your guys' way, on posting on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We thank you guys. All the support means a lot. We'll continue to provide you guys with as much insight as we possibly can. Until then, Gronk spike the subscribe button for us.